Your attention, please. Paul and Alex are required to proceed to the gate immediately.
What?
No way.
What is happening here?
This is the last call for the Layovers podcast.
Really?
Come on, man. This is our thing. We got this.
Oh, yeah.
And we made it.
Of course, geeks.
Ready?
Ready.
Born ready. Flight 69 to Charlotte. Hi, Alex.
Hi, Charlotte, finally! Finally, we're going to Charlotte.
Have you ever been?
Have I ever been to Charlotte? No, I have not been to Charlotte.
Well, the city itself is great for barbecue, as you might know.
It's quite the tech hub these days, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what I heard. But to be honest, I've never actually visited any startups there, so I wouldn't be able to judge the ecosystem. We're recording today, the 21st of March. By the way, is it not spring or something today?
It feels so. Oh, finally.
There's some sun. I don't know about you in Kent. Yeah, is there sun?
Yeah, it's
right?
lovely.
Oh.
It's beautiful.
It's actually spring. Let's have this positive attitude. And I flew US Airways through Charlotte exactly 6 years ago on March 21st. So I don't know. It wasn't on purpose, but I just saw that when I was looking at my past flight history. Charlotte, we'll talk at the end of the episode. Of course, the reason I do this is because, guys, you've heard this in the past episode. I was actually in Philadelphia, our airport, from episode 67, and when we were recording, I forgot about it. I won't add anything more than Alex said because you covered it really well. I was just going to say 2-3 words. First, they are, and I remember, and I think it's still the case, there are very, very, very few plugs, outlets to charge your stuff. So that's something you have to know because one of these airports where they seemingly seem to be not a single plug anywhere.
Yeah, that's frustrating, isn't it?
There's a Chipotle. Our friend Ivan Hernandez, who lives in Warsaw, would be very happy to know that because when he comes to London from Warsaw, the first thing he does, and probably he does like 5 times a day, is going to Chipotle.
Oh, Ivan, there's so many other better Mexican joints in London now. I mean, there's nothing actually that amazing, but there's lots of stuff better than Chipotle. Although I think Chipotle is one of those things that people, it's more of an emotional comfort thing than it is, a quality thing.
I think so too. At least for Ivan, that's what it is. He's Mexican, so. I don't know if it's still the case, guys. So anyone who's going often to Philadelphia through the airport can tell us. I remember that somebody told me there's many terminals. The one thing you have to remember, Terminal F means food. The best food is in Terminal F. I remember I commuted through Terminal A West. It was when it was US Airways. God, I missed that airline because not only it wasn't Star, but also I really liked the livery and the logo. There was something, I really enjoyed it. And the last thing that I will say about Philadelphia that is also very practical, that is still the case now for you because you fly AA. There are Admirals Club everywhere. So meaning no matter which terminal you are in, there will be an Admirals Club.
Since
good. Since it was a hub for US Airways, and there are lounges in every single terminal as well. When it was taken over by AA, they simply just rebranded the lounges. But that's very practical because, there are some airports when you are in not your terminal, as in, I could have gone into the lounge, but I need to switch terminals, so I won't do it. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is good
that's
to
pretty
know.
cool. The bad thing is, as me, as a Star Alliance person, I was able to fly US Airways, and when it was taken over by American, of course, they switched Alliance. It went to One World, so that was a miss. Now I'm also One World Gold, so that I could get in, but that's the shoe-in for what? For that the only thing I can fly in the US, and I've done it last year, and now I regret it, is to fly United. Yeah. And United has had like a pretty bad 2 weeks.
They really have. Like I said to you yesterday on a chat, I think they're going for some kind of new record. How bad can we be? Hold my beer. It's like, it's...
It's really bad. I mean, look, if we had recorded right after that poor dog, Coquito, I think the name of the dog was, died in the overhead bin, I was truly incensed. Incensed not only because, of course, it's the death of a pet, but the way it happened. It's like, writing an angry email. It's nice that we record a few days later because now I'm more... I would have really called them out in a way that wouldn't have been nice.
Yeah.
I think we already said a lot about United when we recorded, remember, with the incident, the reaccommodation incident. It was in episode 52. We had a lot to say about United as well back then, but the problem is that they don't seem to be, getting anywhere. They seem to be. It seems to me that they only are trying to fix PR, but not the problem.
Well, exactly, and then you just end up chasing your tail if you do that. They've got to go back and address these massive issues because, as you say, that was just the first in a few incidents that made everybody kind of shake their head in disbelief that this was even possible.
Yeah, so that story, if you haven't heard, I don't know how you wouldn't have heard about it because seemingly everyone talked about it. So it was a flight, I don't remember where it was going, but this person had a small kennel for small dog. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been, of course, in the cabin. The flight attendant asked them to put the dog in the overhead bin, so the kennel, the overhead bin. An argument... because a lot of witnesses have said there was an argument. They said, no, I don't want to. The person, maybe the passenger, her first language wasn't English. That might have also not helped. The dog ended up being in the overhead bin, which crazy. First, I mean, what? Yeah. But also during the flight, there were a lot of turbulences. The dog was barking. They called many times the flight attendant with a button, bing.
Yeah.
They came, meaning they clearly heard the dog.
Yeah.
But they didn't do anything because nobody was supposed to, of course, remove their seatbelts and everything. And when the flight landed, they opened the overhead bin and the dog had died. I mean,
horrendous.
I mean, what? First of all, why? They United, and I get it. Because, as a company, you cannot just throw your flight attendant under the bus and say, that's her fault. Maybe there was a, misunderstanding. I find it, to be frank, a bit hard to believe because of the repeated asks by the passenger, the daughter of the passenger, by other passenger nearby. So meaning it's not just one, when you enter the flight and, everybody's boarding and it's a bit of a ruckus and everybody's trying to get as fast as they can to their seats. Maybe at that time, that request happened and it was a misunderstanding, but how could I have had that linger for the rest of the flight?
Exactly.
I just don't understand.
That's the thing that I can't get my head around is that perhaps there was a misunderstanding and they put the dog in the overhead bin, but when the dog is clearly in distress and multiple people are commenting and people who have no connection with the dog or the passenger.
Yeah.
Then there's something massively wrong with this situation. And like you said, the freaking dog died. Yeah, I mean, how could you possibly... And there's some, really heartbreaking pictures of this poor pet owner after the fact. And it was really distressing. Whatever you think about dogs or pets in general, or United Airlines, it was just awful.
I'm going to be a bit harsh here. I do believe that the flight attendant is lying, but I'm going to give her or him, I think it was a her, it doesn't matter actually, but the benefit of the doubt. It might have been, again, a very, very big misunderstanding. And probably, again, the culture of the company doesn't help because It seems that maybe people are just, including the crew, are just, stressed to a position that is untenable and they have to minimize the time that needs for boarding, etc., etc. I don't know, but there's a clear cultural problem in this company that is crazy.
Yeah, I agree. Rotten to the core perhaps is a little bit of an overstatement, but this is at the DNA level where these failings are happening.
Guys, listen to episode 52 because we don't want to go for 40 minutes talking about United, about, the entitlement of United, maybe the too big to fail that happened when all the bankruptcies happened. There are many, many reasons I could find, but the problem is really for me that they don't seem to be going anywhere. Every single time they have problems that they have had, and we go to a few others, they seem to be fixing that as a PR issue, and not as a cultural issue, not as a company issue, but just, after the fact, we've been caught, so we need to address it in a way that is acceptable. This is not how you deal with problem in the company, for crying out loud.
No, not at all. Not at all. And incredibly, they went on to have three more incidents within the space of 2 weeks. There was that, which I think is by far the most tragic, but it's still, these others are horrendous. They managed to ship a dog that was supposed to go to Kansas.
Yeah.
And ended up in Japan.
How does that happen, for crying out loud?
There's so many regulations that were broken. Not just, beyond the fact that you've got a dog on the wrong side of the planet.
It's just, that's where you see, by the way, that the PR machine, because what they did is that they repatriated the dog with a private jet.
Yeah,
and they of course they took a lot of pictures. It's nice. I'm not saying like, but again, it's like, oh, we've been caught in a series of incidents, so we're gonna take a private jet and make pictures for PR purposes. Yeah, okay, fine, but how in the first place does a dog end up in Japan?
Yeah,
that doesn't.
Well, exactly. And then another one, they had to do what they called an unplanned landing in Ohio because they were carrying a dog that wasn't supposed to be on the plane. It was on the wrong plane going to the wrong place. So they inconvenienced however many hundred people were on that airplane because they couldn't get their act together. And as a result of all this, they've suspended shipping pets under the ironically named Pet Safe program.
Exactly, Pet Safe.
Yeah.
We had because when I tweeted from our layovers account on Twitter, when I tweeted the incident, I had a conversation with someone saying, "Yeah, well, why was the dog in the cabin in the first place?" And we can discuss at length whether or not pets should be accepted in the cabin. We know that in the UK, for instance, it's impossible to have a pet in the cabin going out or going in to the UK, but if an airline says it's acceptable, they call it even Pet Safe, for crying out loud. They really have an entire page, I don't know if it was taken down, about saying how safe your pets would be traveling both in the cabin and or in the hold. Then it's not even a question whether or not it's acceptable. That's an entirely different debate. If you say you're going to take care of pets, then do it, for crying out loud. Or just stop doing it. You cannot have it both ways. Yeah, and there was... just because I love how stupid it is. There was this senator, I think Kennedy, who introduced the welfare of our furry friends. Woof, woof. A law stating that you shouldn't put dogs in the overhead bin. I mean, for crying out loud, even before you were not supposed to put dogs in the overhead bin. You know, it's nice for publicity, but the point is that in the first place, these things shouldn't happen. And United has a really bad reputation and bad history of that. They killed 3 times as much animals compared to the other American airlines. What? So they have an issue. Yeah, 3 times as much. We're not talking like 1,000 deaths a year or something, right? It's still limited because there's not a dog on every flight, etc. But 3 times as much. So again, there's a problem in that company that neither Delta, American, JetBlue, and all the others have. There's something not right.
Bad. So bad.
And what was about this story yesterday? I know it's nothing to do with animals. About this person that was paid $1,000 voucher or something to remove her feet from a table.
What?
Remember I sent you that yesterday?
Oh, yeah. I didn't know. I thought it said 100.
It's 1,000.
$1,000 to move their feet?
The person was apparently very rude, not willing to remove, I think it was her again, I'm not sure, but her feet from the table. I think it was on the ground. And to buy her to say you should remove, United gave her money. How does that happen? You don't give money. I will start putting my feet on tables then, because if that's gonna pay me my entire year of travels by just like putting feet on tables.
We're gonna encourage that behavior by doing that.
United has an issue. They overpromise and they underdeliver. They said that they were doing Polaris. Where is Polaris? They have like one single aircraft. God, they even are currently still ordering planes with the old business class seats. So they're telling everyone we are installing new business class seats, which apparently are great and fine, but they are still ordering today aircraft with the old configuration. So they're not actually willing. No. They're just saying that again for PR. They're just saying we are doing it. They're like displaying, showcasing one aircraft somewhere, but actually the rest is still the horrendous old planes. They've removed lots of the stuff on the menu from when they started Polaris. They eliminated the champagne pre-departure. They removed a lot of the wine selection because now you just get whatever is in the plane. There's no more magazines and newspaper. There's no more cheese and no more pork. There's no more dessert selection. There's no more bedding. They had like a cushion from Saks and the bedding and everything. Now you mostly don't get any of this anymore. And we're talking like a few months after they announced like we're revamping the thing in the skies. They don't give any of the chocolates here. I still got them, but they are eliminating the chocolates as well. I know this is small stuff here because whatever, we're in business class. I don't need chocolates. But all this added to what they promised they would do, and they're not announcing that they're removing everything. They're still leaving the PR page of what Polaris should be.
Cool.
Yeah, it's not yet.
Perhaps this is what you're referencing, but there was a discussion in an article. I think I saw it on Airliners or one of the other 400,000 aviation websites I read. That was the question I was posing is, what has Oscar Munoz actually done? And it listed all the things that you just mentioned, the sort of regression of service and all, not to mention the pet stuff we talked about, but the degradation in service and not living up to promises and all that. He may not be long for that job. Actually, if the share price is performing, he'll be there for the rest of his life. But who knows? But you're right; they're just not good at this.
No, really not. And I said that earlier. I almost regret paying a flight last December to try it. I had a promo deal, whatever, because I'm like, I don't want to give money to a company like that anymore. I'm not going to fly United anymore. It's a very privileged thing to do. We don't have to fly United because we live in the UK. But even I think if I were to live in San Francisco, where United owns half of the airport, I would try to fly anything else but United, or go Norwegian in Auckland, because I can't for the life of me believe in a company like that, you know?
No, I agree. I agree.
I mean, BA that we travel both with a lot does a lot of sometimes bad things, but not to that extent. It's not a rotten to the core thing.
No, and I don't think it's endemic as well at BA. We're harsh on BA because I think we have high expectations of them. And more often than not, when we're not complaining about them, it's because they are hitting those expectations. There's not this habitual failure that United seem to be in the midst of.
Yeah. Last bit about United, just a very quick mention, because we want to move on. There was an interesting article on crankyflyer.com about the scope clauses. You remember we talked about the scope clauses, and it's a protective way. So, they have to basically segregate businesses with which is large aircrafts, the Airbuses and the Boeings, the large ones, and the smaller regional airlines are limited to much smaller aircrafts, which creates a problem for especially I think Delta and United to buying for example the Mitsubishi aircraft or the C series. It's an interesting article in Cranky Flyer because he really gives the laydown of what's going on. We see that American, the way they negotiated these agreements with the pilots, give them more freedom about what they can do, which allows them to buy some of these smaller aircraft, because that's the thing. Now these airlines want to be buying C series or Mitsubishis, etc. I'm not saying here specifically C series and Mitsubishi, but they are interested in buying 70 seats aircrafts. And under these rules, they can't. But American has more leeway. Delta had not a lot of leeway, but negotiated with the pilots and gave them a lot back in order to being able to buy the C series, because you remember that's the whole story they wanted to buy. That's how this big story with the protectionism in the US started. But United wants both ways. They want clearly to be buying, because, if both American and Delta are able to shuttle, planes of 70 people, but United is not, they have a competitive disadvantage. The thing is, Munoz here wants to both buy these type of aircraft to be competitive, but not give anything to the pilots in exchange.
Nice guy,
which means good luck. Anyway, let's not talk about scope clauses too much, because it's a bit tedious probably, but I'll put the link in the show notes whenever the show notes are back, or simply messages, and I'll send you the link, crankyflyer.com. He always has great articles about the state of the industry, way more in-depth than we do on this podcast. Yeah, let's talk about Angola. It's that story about
I love this so much.
Yeah, go ahead. So tell us the story.
No, I like this for a bunch of different reasons. The first is because it's hilariously awful. But the second is, I know it's true because my father lived in Angola for a while and can validate so much of what was said in this article. And is it 1 Mile at a Time who did
Correct.
it? So 1 Mile at a Time, who's wonderful airline reviewer, if you will, wrote this extraordinary article about his experience flying on TAG Angola, the national airline of Angola, in first class, right? And it's the most... Comedy of Errors is making it sound really a lot nicer than it actually was, where he was sort of emotionally abused by the flight attendants who kept yelling at him and aggressively asking him not to take photos and interrogating him to understand why he was taking photos, demanding that he delete photos. All he's doing is taking pictures of the inside of the airplane, his food, so he could do what he does, which is write these wonderful reviews of his airline experiences. and how the flight attendants fell asleep pretty much after takeoff and didn't really move afterwards, would slap down the food on his tray. How when he left the airplane, they were gathering up all of the uneaten food and booze and putting them in their bags. Extraordinary tale of just utter contempt for the traveling public that is completely believable.
He was not trying to diss the company, because if you read his reviews, even for airlines that have older products that might not compare to the shiny products that some of the better airlines have, is always very positive. He tries to find...
Yeah.
So he was not there to take pictures and say, look, ha ha ha, they're really old. By the way, their first class is, I think it's very similar to what Oman Air has in business or first as well.
Yes.
It looks nice. It's an older product, but older product also sometimes mean larger seats. Everybody has all access. It's really nice. So he was really enthusiastic about doing it.
Yeah, he was really looking forward to it.
Like you said, they were asking him why are you taking pictures? They were demanding to see his phone to remove the pictures. And also, when he was actually simply writing, they came to him and says, "What are you writing? We want to see it." What?
Unbelievable.
Anyway, did you ever had an experience when you had a flight attendant or someone who told you not to?
Once, and it was, I was taking pictures. But this was a long time ago. I don't think I've had it ever since.
Yeah, I had Iberia last year, coming from Madrid to London with one of their 340s. I was in business class and I just took a picture. I always try to board super early so there's still no one, because I understand that bit. I understand the privacy part of it. Somebody else doesn't want to be on a picture. I know that nowadays it's almost quaint because, everything is filmed.
Exactly.
Picture. But, I would understand that an airline says, because of the privacy of other passengers, please refrain from taking pictures. Fine. But really, at that point in time, I just took a very nice picture of the cabin, and really not even something, I was not doing any reviews. What I got from the flight attendant, oh my God, I was some kind of terrorist. Not in that way. I stopped because I was fine, don't worry, I'm not here to create any. But guys, first you have a policy, maybe, but the way you say it, you could have...
Exactly.
Just tell me, sir, please, we would rather you not take pictures, and that's fine. I mean, I'm not going going to a ruckus for that. But anyway.
I think it's a non-issue these days. I can understand if there are particular airlines in particular parts of the world where security is more of a concern than we're fortunate to have here in the UK, that they may have policies for that reason, and that's fine. That's completely understandable, and I would never ever debate that. But as you say, how you communicate that policy to someone who doesn't know that you have that policy, it's the critical difference between, "Oh, sorry, I didn't know," and an argument.
Yeah. There was this other story in the US, Silver Airways, pretty similar, but there's one big difference that I think is important here is that I don't want to go into identity politics or whatever, but we are also two white men, and it helps because we're not going to be suspected of anything. There was a person who ended up actually being Polish. He was really excited to take a Saab 340.
Oh, cool.
Took a few pictures of it on the ground, walking towards the plane. The flight attendants asked them about the picture. The guy probably didn't speak very well English. They were not sure about where he was from, because Polish for them was probably very, very different. They basically had the police come in and escort him out for 3 pictures. Oh my God, right?
That's ridiculous.
Suspicious passenger. So, guys, if you take pictures and you're suspicious, meaning, airlines should know better. I understand there are times when people are stressed out, again, flight attendants included, so I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, but there are ways of doing things that can often be simply oh, look, I just took a picture of the wing because I'm an AV geek. You don't become a terrorist because you've done that.
No, well, exactly.
So, let's talk a little bit about Wi-Fi in the air in Europe, because it's a black hole, right?
It sure is. We talked about this, I think, you were saying on your Garuda flight how there's connectivity. Most airlines in Asia seem to have it. Almost every airline in the US has it, but not a sniff of it for us over here.
Nothing, really nothing. And that's interesting because there's been a few articles around that. First, what you said is correct. The FT reported that in the US, 80% of passengers flew on a plane offering in-flight Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I believe that.
In Europe, which is the busiest airspace in the world, there's almost no Wi-Fi. It's starting. I'm not saying there's none. There's Norwegian has clearly started it, but they fly internationally. I think EasyJet, but EasyJet, I'm not sure if there's just streaming for content or you can get Wi-Fi. Guys, if you've flown them recently, tell us because I'm not entirely sure.
I'm not entirely sure either.
The good news is, because it's the London School of Economics estimated that the total revenue for in-flight broadband by 2035 will be 130 billion. So, it's a boon for airlines for selling you like expensive Wi-Fi. Inmarsat is launching satellites to allow this to happen. And now this is why we've heard these rumors about Lufthansa, about EA, about all the others saying that they are starting to offer Wi-Fi because the satellites are being put in place. Apparently will be very fast. We'll know that once we actually have it, because it will be also a system of part satellite, part on the ground.
Very sensible.
Which apparently will probably allow us to have good Wi-Fi. The one caveat though is that Viasat, which is one of the largest providers again for satellites, especially in the US, are threatening the EU to court. They're saying that Inmarsat is blatantly misusing the spectrum because it was not supposed to be for in-flight Wi-Fi or whatever. So I'm just hoping as a passenger that, guys, let us have freaking Wi-Fi.
Yeah. Was it? I wonder if they're making claims that it was, they were awarded the bandwidth based on a certain activity and they are going to use it for something else instead.
Exactly. Mobile, it was supposed to be for cellular, so mobile communication, so getting you and me having bad signal in London, I guess. and it's being used for in-flight Wi-Fi. So, and I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm just saying, as a passenger, I'd like them to make peace and so we could get something for crying out.
Yeah, exactly. As passengers, we kind of don't care what your intra-corporate battles are. Just give us our Wi-Fi.
Yeah. About that, the travelstatsman.com is a listener, wrote a very interesting article about the number of airlines that have Wi-Fi, and he used Skytrax. So he said, okay, looking at the best airlines in Skytrax, how many of them actually offer Wi-Fi, both regionally and or internationally. And 67 of airlines in the top 99 offer internet on at least one of their routes. Well, at least one, but the top 20 Skytrax rated airlines all have in-flight internet services available. So meaning there's a...
Really?
Yeah, but you know what? BA...
I was going to say, is BA in that list? Because they don't really. They've got 2, 3?
Yeah, but that's the thing. If they have, it means they offer. That's where the stats, of course, is cooed a little bit. But on international airlines, I think he surveyed, I don't have it now in front of me, 75 or something. It says only 55 have onboard internet. And unsurprisingly, there's a smaller share of regional airlines that have Wi-Fi on board. But again, we're talking here globally. Anyway, it's a very, as always, what he does, very interesting article. He also, which I like, he gives the entire spreadsheet is open to the public on Google Docs. So you can actually take a look at what is actually BA doing. So I'll just put the links on the show note. But since, again, the show notes are late, travelstatsman.com. All the articles there are always very nice. Last thing about Wi-Fi, one of our listeners, Kenny Davies, living in Edmonton, Alberta, in Canada, must be very cold right now, has been saying that he's enjoyed very much our past episode, our 68, about Garuda. And he said that when he flew from Dublin to Oslo on Norwegian, they had free Wi-Fi. So there you go. There are some airlines that actually offer Wi-Fi. We know Norwegian is very well ahead of the game there, right?
Very much so.
He tells us that WestJet offers internet as well. Have you ever flown WestJet?
No, I haven't. The only other airline I've flown in Canada is Porter, who are fantastic. I haven't flown WestJet yet.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever flown any Canadian airline ever. Not even Air Canada. Or maybe when I was a kid. I'm not even sure. There was clearly no Wi-Fi, though, when I was a kid. Nobody even knew what the internet was or something. What he wrote about WestJet looks like a nice, they have live TV, they offer you tablets and everything. So it could be actually an interesting airline to fly. And he says that Air Canada Rouge, which is I think the regional part of Air Canada, also has Wi-Fi. We should invite someone from Canada to tell us about that airspace, because I've no idea what's going on.
Yeah, same.
To be honest.
I'd love to hear more about it.
Oh, yeah, and I like how Norwegian does thing. We were having this discussion with Kenny on Facebook, and he was telling me how he was able to bid for the upgrade on Norwegian, and he bid the minimum and got upgraded in premium economy. It's great because these airlines, newer airlines, make it so easy to process of like, I'm ready to shell, I don't know, let's say $100 to have an upgrade. Don't make it hard. Just allow me to say that I want to do it, and why not? And he got it, he won, and he had a great flight. Why? I'm trying to get some of my flights upgraded. Sometimes it's just a freaking nightmare to do so on some airlines, to be honest.
It is. I'm always fascinated by how the American system works on the majors anyway, where you just sort of seem to get added to an upgrade list anyway, and you're often upgraded. I hardly ever get upgraded, and that's fine, like just as an operational upgrade. But even trying to upgrade through the normal channels, it seems painfully difficult.
Maybe we would have better luck if we were, instead, for instance, of me being on Star Lufthansa, I would be on United's program, and instead of you being on BA, you'd be on AA's program. Maybe they prioritize their own customers first, and then
they definitely
international.
Do. Certainly within One World, they do.
Yeah, well, same on Star. So probably that's that. One more of our listeners sent us a message, John, because we were talking about the longest flight you can have from London, the one I took to Jakarta with Garuda. He told us that he's about to fly Dallas to Hong Kong. That's 8,300 miles. That's almost 17 hours of flight. But you know what? American first class. That must be good, John. We're very jealous.
Yeah, that does sound good. Still, that's a long time to be in an airplane.
Yeah, well, you better have a lot of movies to watch. So from first class, let's go back to a basic economy, because that's the other big trend. Because of the Norwegians, etc., the other airlines have to kind of react. And we know that some of the airlines within the US have introduced basic economy. It's not gone well for every single one of them, but they have done so. And now they are introducing the same on transatlantic routes. So American Airlines has the international basic economy. I think non-refundable, non-upgradable, no allowance for checked baggage, no assigned seats, but you still can have one free carry-on on the overhead bin. Whereas in domestic, basic economy, you can just put stuff in front of your feet, I think. British Airways is also expanding their basic economy to long haul. It was only short haul. They say it's going to be about 20% less than standard economy. And Virgin Atlantic is also introducing economy light. And I think also similarly non-refundable, non-upgradable, no seat, just hand luggage only, etc. It's a trend, right? Because they have to react to Norwegian, I guess. And wow,
as long as
you're not smiling there.
No, because it's great, for, as you say, for hand luggage only travelers. I think it's a good thing, but I keep worrying that this is just a mechanism for the base price to creep up even further, and we're going to be paying more and more and more and more for things that used to be built into the ticket price. I don't see this as a good thing for consumers. I just think this is a way of generating more ancillary revenue for airlines. Again, we've been through this 10 years ago in the U.S. And was it beneficial for the passenger? Ultimately, no. So exactly. I remain skeptical, but prove me wrong, airlines. Prove me wrong.
We had one question from our listener, Elizabeth, since we're talking about transatlantic routes. It's a question that keeps coming, like every week I hear some of these questions. Why do airlines still have ashtrays? She was flying a brand new, I think it was a Dreamliner, and there's an ashtray in the lavatory. Do you have an answer?
No.
I had to look it up because, they clearly build still ashtrays in airliners. And I think, the smoking ban must have happened in the 90s in the US and probably 92 internationally or something. So we're talking about, long time ago. It's just that there was an accident, let's not call it an incident, when a flight crashed in the 70s. And it was proven that the reason the flight crashed was an improperly disposed cigarette butt, so basically caught fire. And so they're saying that, look, we know it's forbidden, you shouldn't smoke, but in the unlikelihood of someone actually still trying to cheat and smoke in the lavatory, although we know there are smoke detectors, etc., would rather have him or her put the butt in the ashtray than actually create yet another fire and kill everyone on board. I think that's a major reason we still have ashtray. You cannot, there's not a single flight in the world. I've heard a friend of mine telling me that flying in Tajikistan. There's some airlines that just still do it or something, but
Yeah.
I that doesn't exist. I think it's just that reason, just to be.
I think that makes sense. It's the most sensible explanation that I've heard.
Elizabeth, that is why we have ashtray seals in our craft. And it's true, I've also flown recently Dreamliners, and it's true that it's a bit like awkward to see an ashtray in a Dreamliner. You're like, what? This aircraft is like a year old and you have an ashtray. Okay, so since we're doing transatlantic back and forth between the US and the UK, back to the UK, Willie Walsh called the FT fake news.
Oh gosh, yes, this is funny.
That was stupid. So the story is Willie Walsh. Let's go in order. Willie Walsh wrote an op-ed in the FT maybe in January telling that Heathrow should lose its monopoly. So let's start there. So saying that Heathrow is too expensive. Guys, in the US, airports are public utilities more often than not. In Europe, they are privatized more often than not. So they belong to either a private group or multiple groups or mixed public-private. So Heathrow should be broken down, even have each terminal being run by an independent company. Do you think it's an interesting idea, sound idea? Or?
No, it sounds entirely self-serving. The only reason why they want to do that is because it would benefit them and nobody else.
Yeah, I think there must be at least 50% of Heathrow is them, no?
At least, yeah.
What I would say as well is, besides being self-serving, is that if you try to transfer at JFK, which has that model of each basically airline deciding what they do with their own terminal, it's a nightmare.
Yeah.
Because they don't really talk to each other, right? At least Heathrow has a pretty good, I mean, some people say it could be better, but at least an okay way to transfer between terminals if you have to. I'm afraid that if you start breaking it down, then it will be like a hell to be going from terminals at 6 to 5.
Exactly. That's
I don't want.
And then, somebody else owns the terminal and that terminal, and then you're like, oh, you can't go through here unless you've got this or you paid that, or no.
The major problem, and that's the fake news that he called, the major problem, and we touched upon it, that the UK will have upon Brexit is the ownership rules that will suddenly make IAG, for instance, non-compliant with EU rules, which also means that they could be simply losing the Open Skies Agreement within Europe because of Brexit, and thus losing their rights to fly within Europe, and especially the rights to pick up passengers. And that's what the FT wrote, says you have a problem, not only IAG, all the companies that have base in the UK, that includes EasyJet, which now has set up operations also abroad. And Willie Walsh says, no, this is fake news. We'll never have an issue. We'll have a comprehensive agreement with Europe. I do think that IAG will be in trouble after Brexit.
I do too. I think that they're massively downplaying this. And I think that Ryanair have figured it out, EasyJet have figured it out, and I don't think that saying, sticking your fingers in your ear and saying, la, 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 it's not an issue, actually makes it not an issue. Let's not pretend that they're not thinking about this, because obviously they are. But to deny it in such vehement terms seems counterproductive.
Absolutely. And also, the US said, because the Open Skies Agreement between the US and Europe is done with the EU, not with the UK. So again, new agreement has been done. And the UK had the assumption that the US will give them similar rights. And the US just came back and said, you know what, we're going to give you a worse deal.
Yeah. And I think that caught everybody by surprise. Whether that's just a negotiating stance remains to be seen, but that's not a good foot to start on.
We are seemingly in an era of protectionism. Everyone, if they can, I would understand even if Lufthansa or Air France do some kind of pressure over EU authorities to not give a sweet deal to the UK, because they will say, they're not European anymore. This is our market, not theirs. Why would they? I'm not here taking the stance of Brexit, by the way, guys. I'm just saying that it's more like Alex just mentioned. BA, IAG, they seem to be downplaying all this. Yeah. And this is upcoming like in a year. In a year, there's no more rights to fly in Europe for British Airways. It's crazy.
It's extraordinary. And there's so many facets of this and so many examples of this in other industries as well, where you have certain industry analysts going, have we thought about X and how that's going to work? No, the answer is no. The answer is no.
Anyway, at least we'll have our Crossrail, so we'll have a new way to go, the Elizabeth line, a new way to go to Heathrow, so it will be Heathrow Express, Heathrow Connect, the Tube, or that Elizabeth line. The irony is that our mayor here in London, Sadiq Khan, said that the Elizabeth line would be priced at a similar price as the Tube, which would have been a great deal to go to Heathrow with. Only that, it's going to be priced as the Tube, just not to Heathrow. All the rest of the line will be priced as the Tube, but the Heathrow, they will be matching the price of the Heathrow Express. Which means Connect.
Connect is reasonable. Express is a ripoff.
What's the difference in terms of pricing? Do you remember, more or less?
I think the Express now is like 25 if you buy on the day, and Connect is 13.
Okay, but still, the Tube is what, 4
Yeah.
if you pay with cash, or off-peak 3 or 2 if you pay with the Oyster card of a contactless. I mean, it's really cheap. I feel it's still a way to protect the Heathrow Connect, because of course, if they would have the Elizabeth line priced at 2 prices, nobody would actually go to
exactly.
Talking about Heathrow, no third runway. We don't know where that is, but Narita.
Yes.
It's getting finally. You remember episode 50, guys? At the end, we spoke for about 20 minutes about the crazy history of Narita, that they would never been able to expand, that they were like building like bits of runways to kind of expand the runway. They're getting a new runway.
Extraordinary. This kind of came out of nowhere as well. And I think you quite rightly said Haneda is getting better and better. They're getting more and more service to more and more countries. They needed to do something, and they have.
They will also expand the operating hours, meaning before, I think the last flight was leaving at 11. I remember my flight from the flight I was commuting is a bit of an exaggeration, but from Japan to Europe, I was always taking Air France. It was the last flight to leave at 11, and that was the cutoff time. That cutoff will be 90 minutes later, and also starting operations at 5 a.m. and not at 6 a.m., so that gives a bit more of course, traffic to Narita. They will build a third runway and extend the existing second one by 1,000 meters. So that will lead to an expansion of slots from 300,000 to 500,000. And they will also be... Yeah, that's a lot, right?
Yeah.
Which will mean that the airport at capacity, which is not now, will be able to handle 75 million passengers. Currently, it handles around 40 million. So it's a pretty big expansion of the operation.
And very sensible as well to do this, and not future-proof, but, at least invest for decades and not years.
That's not where you're flying next week or in 2 weeks, right? You're flying to Haneda, right?
No, neither. We're flying to Incheon, and then we fly to Osaka.
Yes.
Yeah, we have. I couldn't resist the allure of Osaka. You're right. We were originally going to fly into Narita, but I wanted to show my family Osaka because I love it there so much. So we're going to flying on Peach, so that'll be a new experience.
I so want to know what it's like because I've never flown them.
Yeah, I think LCC. So
were they expensive?
No, not really. I mean, what I would expect to pay for I think it's like 1 hour and 40-minute flight.
Yeah.
With no bells and whistles. It was fine. And they have tiers of fares. Speaking of tiers of fares, some that include being able to pick your seat, and you get a bag included and all that stuff. So we'll see how it goes in practice. But it was one of the better booking sites I've used for airlines in that region as well. Some are extraordinarily difficult to use.
I know. It's a puzzle. Like, it's on purpose to make it, it's a journey, it's an adventure. I need to understand how that works. Sometimes it's really literally impossible. By the way, Asiana and Korean Air, so it's not only Japan, I've also similar sometimes websites, you're like, what am I doing here?
Yeah,
what am I supposed to click on? And then, so I'm saying, I'm going to download the app because probably the app is easier. No, the UX is sometimes a bit puzzling. But you'll be flying then back to Europe with the Haneda, right?
Out of Haneda on BA.
So talking about Japan, your latest episode of Attaché just came out. Kyushu, man, it's the most wonderful episode you've ever done.
Thank you.
Quality is off the charts. Probably because it felt a bit like maybe Beirut as well. It felt less of a city guide and more of an ode to a region or a place.
Yes.
And that I really enjoyed that tone. It's, guys, if you haven't seen it, and I know that we have a lot of crossover people listening from Attaché and of course Mastication Nation, but probably everyone who's listening to this has already watched it. But watch it the second time then.
No, yeah, thank you.
Really
It was great to film in such a beautiful region, and I got to fly to some neat airports and on some neat airlines, which we talked about in past episodes. But yeah, thank you. It was a fun episode to make, and Greg, as usual, did his wizardry to make it look as beautiful as it does.
You filmed also within A&A. I love the bit at the end. I'm not going to reveal it, but there's as an AV geek, it's really cool to look at as well. And I'm very jealous of you being able to come early in a flight and being able to do this kind of filming. I wish I could do that. I have the entire flight empty and take pretty pictures with not a single passenger.
They were wonderful about that and really helped us. And actually, it's the second time we've done that with airlines where we've come on during a turn, and it's humbling is such a trite word, but it was fascinating and humbling in a way to see the amount of work by the amount of people in such a short period of time required to take a plane that's come 12 hours across the world, ready to do the same thing again with a new set of people. Just it's really rather impressive and to watch.
I've never had the luck to do that. I need to find a reason. I'm gonna just put up a fake show online to say, yeah, I need to film.
There you go.
When you, no, I'm kidding, guys. Alex is much better at this than I will ever be. Still attaché. The book. Tell us about the book.
It was like giving birth. But the book, which we haven't actually talked about too much on the show, we kickstarted it last year. It went really well, and then we had to write it. So I wrote 30,000 words. It's a monster. It's 232 pages. Kickstarter backers should be getting theirs by the time this airs. And we are, because of so many people asking for it, we're actually putting it out for sale. So you can buy it now on our website, which is attachetravel.net, ATTACHE, travel.net. And you can buy the physical copy, a signed copy, which will benefit a very, very wonderful charity called Anthony Nolan. And for our beloved listeners, there's a promo code for 20% off the normal book. And if you go on there, add it to your cart and use the promo code layovers, all one word, you will get 20% off. So go and buy it. Tell me what you think. I would be hugely appreciated.
Well, and actually, I'm probably getting the book right now while we're recording, but I'm not able to go open the door. I've seen a few friends of ours have actually received them already, and they've sent pictures. I think you're also asking people to, whenever they receive them, to tag you on whether it's Instagram on or Facebook
post
or
on social media and let me know. I want to hear what people think, and I'm happy that it's finally arriving on people's doormats.
I'm really looking forward. I had a preview of Tokyo and Manila because you were kind enough to send me the PDF file to take a quick look. So I'm really, really excited. Congrats.
No,
Alex.
thank you very much.
Congrats. It's the second baby of the year actually for you.
Yeah.
And since people were clamoring for it, apparently, we also recorded an episode of Mastication Nation about airplane
Yes,
food.
you were kind enough to join us as a guest to record the L version or L episode of Mastication Nation, L for layovers, and we had it was really good fun. We had a long conversation about airplane food. If you jump onto the Mastication Nation podcast on whatever app or device or platform you use, it's there. It's a really good conversation. Thank you for joining us. It was fun.
It was really fun. And we'll do a follow-up one of these days with Will and you, so the two brothers together on this show to talk more about food, because there's so much. What I really loved about Will is that he had done the research, the science of it, and, dispelled some of the myth and explained this. So guys, really listen to it. I learned stuff when I was actually recording the show with you guys. So it was really, really cool. Will, you're an inspiration.
Let's not push it.
I know he's your brother. By the way, I'm seeing your other brother just after we record this. I'm going to have the three brothers in line.
I'm so sorry.
So, talking about being sorry, let's move. I don't know how to go to there. There's no link within these stories. That news you sent me, the piece of news of Aeroflot was going to blacklist frequent flyers if they misbehave in flights.
Yeah.
Crazy. I mean, crazy. Great.
Yeah.
But it's unprecedented that an airline would say their most loyal customers, so frequent flyers, status, etc. If you misbehave, of course, not just we're talking like really misbehave.
Yeah, they've sort of said exactly what that means.
We're gonna strip you of all your rights, all of your points, all of your status, and also for flying with us.
Yeah.
Nothing anymore.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea because it is a problem. I think, especially domestically on domestic routes in Russia, and they're just taking a hard line on it to prevent things which could end up being very, very dangerous. So and we've talked about this in the past where people have done stupid things. Do you remember the guy? Was it JetBlue? Who was flying? Somebody was flying on a buddy pass and just went completely cuckoo bananas on the flight and trashed the airplane. Banned for life. Yeah, fine. I agree. I think that's great. And if you threaten me with taking away my status on an airline, I will be on my best behavior. Not that I'm not anyway, but
Because I was about to say you don't need that, but yeah, actually, China is taking a different stance.
Yeah.
They're implementing their social credit thing, which is a bit 1984 Big Brothery stuff. So basically you have a point system. So it's like for status of frequent flyers, but for your everyday life, right? And I don't know if I think it's a good idea, but they are saying that if your social credit, social status, basically your absence of gold card in real life or something, if you are too low, so if you're a bad person, I guess, you will be banned from actually flying as well, which I don't know. It seems a bit science fiction to us, but
there's a really distressing Black Mirror episode about this. I think season 3, I think.
Season 3, yeah.
Really hard to watch, as they all are. Addresses this. Can we not do this, please?
I hope we never get to do that. It's hard enough to fight for status on airlines. Don't make me fight for like everything else in my life.
Yeah, exactly.
So moving on from being blacklisted to having a famous experience in the skies, we know that Qatar Airways has started implementing their Q suite, their famous Q suite we haven't flown yet, in their 777, retrofitting the 777s, but they also are introducing it in their new 350, which they just got the delivery for, the first ever 350-1000. How do you say that? Dash 1000?
Oh, yeah, good point. How do you say that? The A350 1000. That's how I would say it.
A350 10? Oh, that doesn't work. Anyway, and Alex Machera, so he's on Twitter. He's a young guy, very lucky to be flying all the brand new stuff. He posts some pictures. They were also used by, I think, the Daily Mail and others. So if you want to see how the Q-Suite looks like, the 350-1000 looks like a really darn good plane, but the Q-Suite looks like a really darn good product. I'm wondering, Alex hasn't said so, Alex Machera, not Alex Hunter, whether there's an actual difference between the Q-Suite in the 777 and the 350. I know that the cabin is not exactly the same. I really want to try this Q-Suite once in my life.
Me too. It looks like a fantastic product.
And we're on one world, so
yeah, it makes sense. I mean, maybe out to Asia.
This is not what you're flying to Seoul with, right? Were you flying what, BA?
BA Direct, yeah.
Okay, you'll tell us all about it. Guys, probably the next episode, which will be after we both leave, will be in Xi'an, because I have been recently and Alex would have been recently as well. So although we have already done it, we'll have a fresh memory of it. It's
nothing wrong with that.
Turkish, which is one of the largest airlines in the world in terms, and I think the largest in terms of number of destinations served. Turkish has always been the airline that is trying to balance its Airbus orders and Boeing orders. They almost have like a 50-50 split. I think on long haul, slightly more Airbuses, and on short haul, a lot of 737. So but the split is pretty even. So they're buying, I think, 30 350 and 30 Dreamliners Dash 8s. So really, again, let's please both sides, which is great because it also means because they have a lot of 330s, which I'm not a huge fan of. So they're going to replace with 350s. So I'm really looking forward to them having newer aircrafts. You've not flown them or not recently?
I don't think I've flown on them in years.
It's not too bad. I actually enjoy the food, especially. I love the food. Did I mention in the Mastication Nation episode? I'm not sure, but the kebab is absolutely fantastic.
Oh, that's one of the reasons why I want to try them.
Yeah, the kebab is amazing, guys. Good luck to Turkish. We were talking about Qatar. The news that we haven't touched upon yet, it was pretty interesting, is the creation of Air Italy.
Yeah. Out of the ashes from
Meridiana,
I think. I don't know why I can remember.
I'm not sure it's ashes, because Meridiana was not even faltering. They were just
Yeah, they were.
Air.
No, this is a. You're right. A much deserved facelift after Qatar Airways. They own 49% of it now.
Yeah, because of the legal limit of EU
Yeah.
rules. Yeah.
So they've pumped a lot of money into this. They're now going to be rebranded as a direct competitor to the actually faltering Alitalia, which was we did ponder this several episodes ago whether or not they were going to change the name, and I think it's a sensible one. It's a good one, and the livery is nice and elegant and clean. The Meridiana one was very dated,
Yeah.
as was the fleet, which they are,
Yeah, I was about to say the fleet.
which they are
My
also
fault.
refreshing. So that's I'm excited for this. I think this is great.
They've ordered 2037 MAX. They are leasing from Qatar Airways, of course, 332s, but they are ordering, I think, 30 Dreamliners at Dash 8s next year. So they're really looking to have a fleet at about 50 aircrafts within the next 4 years, and they're aiming at flying 10 million passengers. I mean, Alitalia no court decision has been taken. We don't know who's going to buy it. Lufthansa was interested, KLM was interested, Ryanair was interested at some point as well. Delta and Air France are with KLM as saying we don't want it to falter because they're an important piece of SkyTeam. So Delta is looking at maybe buying a piece of it. That's all the rumors are floating. I don't know. But I mean, Qatar, I just wish for them that they are not going into the same direction as Etihad, because Etihad tried that and failed everywhere. So I really hope that Qatar, in their diversification, succeeds, because it's nice to have another airline and probably a One World member at some point.
That would be great. The more portfolio airlines they can add is great, because it means that I can go different places, and it means competition for BA in the region and on a few routes anyway.
Oh, that reminds me, talking about competition. Niki Lauda.
Yes.
Is there that's amazing what happened, right?
Yeah. So what is it called? It's called Lauda Motion, isn't it?
Yeah.
25% of it bought by Ryanair with an option or plan to buy up to 75% of it pending regulatory approval. That's great.
It's amazing because the story was IAG had bought it. The courts were not agreeing where the dissolution should happen, so it was transferred to Austria. Austria said no to IAG, is going to go back to Niki Lauda, and Niki Lauda agreed to sell it to Ryanair. And doing that, he actually said, I don't like old monopolies, I'm all for competition. So it's on purpose. He's clearly saying, I didn't want BA to get it. I want someone fresher to get it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was very thinly veiled.
Yeah, absolutely. But amazing story. Last few bits of news and then we're going to move on. Two happy ones and one less happy. One very quick mention, because we talked, I think, the last episode about the fact that we were never sure what product you would get where you fly a 777 from Emirates. And as we were recording this at the end, Emirates actually starting splashing on their main page, emirates.com, their new 2-class 777, and so they didn't have mostly 3 classes, so the 2-class 777 that has the new business class. It's still a 232, so you still have no all AIL access, but it's a vastly improved version of the, at least with that, if you look at the seat map and you see 2-class, you'll know you're getting the new product.
Yes.
Although they have very few aircrafts, if you're flying to Florida, I think Fort Lauderdale or Miami, I think, you will get the 777. I'm not planning to fly to Miami anytime, but that I should actually, just for the weather.
Yeah, I'm going in May.
Oh, lucky bastard.
Both of those stories, Air Italy and the Emirates thing, are both covered beautifully by Johnny Clark at the Design Air. So if you want to look at what we're talking about, then check it out.
So if you don't have the money to pay for these amazing seats in the front of the cabin, or don't have clients like Alex and I sometimes do that offer us this privilege of being in front of the cabin, you should have been in Russia, I think was it, where an airliner departed from Yakutsk and lost almost $400 million worth of gold, platinum, and diamonds. Like, I think the cargo hold opened just as he was taking off.
Yeah.
Sprayed over 26 kilometers of gold, diamonds, and platinum. Ah, man, this is like, really sometimes money falls from the sky.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
It's just extraordinary. The pictures were great as well. I mean, and the airplane was pretty badly damaged. Everyone was fine. It was safe. But yeah, what an amazing caper movie scene this must have been.
Yes, exactly. There was one a heist, I think. Was it Brussels Airport?
Yeah.
Zurich. The Diamond Heist.
Yeah. I thought about that in years.
Oh my God. That's another movie that should be done. Or was it maybe actually done? I don't know. It's one of these B movies on Channel 2000 and Emirates. Probably. I'm flying them on Saturday, so I'll let you know. Another news that is internet not right. We usually do not cover crashes. First, because there's very few, which is great. But this one in Nepal, was it Kathmandu, which is known to be one of the most dangerous approaches in the world already. Well, the mix-up between tower and the pilot is unbelievable.
Yeah, it was a devastating crash, and the transcript, I don't think they've released the audio yet, of the tower communication makes it sound like the pilot was disoriented or distracted and ended up landing in the wrong direction on the runway, despite being told several times in not the clearest way. Actually,
That's
no,
the thing.
It was pretty explicit to start with, and then it did get a little bit confused, but landed the wrong direction on the wrong runway and crashed. Went off the edge of the runway, didn't they?
Really sad. And we're not probably going to follow up because we're not doing here inquiry about air crashes because it's not really, we try to be upbeat and positive.
Yeah.
But this, read it, and what was her name? Who was afraid of flying?
Yes,
that wrote to us.
Yes, yeah.
Please don't read it. Don't. That actually really never happens. There's been no crashes last year, and this year is only one or two of jetliners, and again in conditions that are not usual. Really, that doesn't happen. Really, so don't get. And we will have someone that's already in the plan now to talk about fear of flying courses, etc. That's being done as usual with us. We're very slow getting guests because it's really hard enough to record the two of us.
Yeah.
So
but we
are
this
getting
is going to
there.
be a great contribution. We're looking forward to it.
Final piece of news. I said earlier, well, if you don't have the money, you have clients that pay you first, business, etc. I mean, my clients don't pay me first. I just upgrade myself when I can with Mars, by the way. I wish my clients would pay me first. It happened to me one time in 2011. First to Tokyo, that was amazing, man, on Emirates. Okay, back to what I was saying. Another way to live through what is first class if you've never done it, go to Tokyo. There's a new restaurant called First Airlines, and you are able to eat with a VR headset, and you are as if you were in the seat of a first class airline. I don't know which one, or is it a fake airline, but that must be, I've not done it, but next time I'm in Tokyo, I want to try that. Yeah, you even get a boarding pass.
I'll be in Tokyo in a couple of weeks. You'll have to tell me where to find it, because my kids will love that.
And also, what is apparently great is that you can choose where you go from Tokyo to X. So if you go to New York, the food that will be served will be inspired by the city you're going towards to. So that's actually really cool. If you go
Cool.
I think if you go to Italy, you gotta get tiramisu, and I guess if you go to Greece, you get a moussaka or something. And if you go to New York, I think you have an Angus beef steak.
There you go. Nice.
I love the idea, man. I love the idea. There was is it in Kuala Lumpur? There is, or Kuala Lumpur, or maybe Taipei actually, where I'm going to. Because I said I was going to Kuala Lumpur, and I'm ending up going to Taipei. There is also like a hotel which is also called something airline, and I think every single room is designed as a vast cabin or something.
Oh, that's so cool.
That's so cool. I'll report back that's not the hotel I'm going to, but if it's in Taipei and I'm there, I'm gonna check it out.
Definitely.
For sure. So, Charlotte, so have you been to the airport?
I haven't been there, no. I've been to a few in that region, but never to Charlotte.
So Charlotte was the hub for U.S. Airways, along with Philadelphia, actually, and I think
Phoenix,
Sky Harbor, and
because of their America West purchase.
Yeah, exactly, absolutely. Well, this airline disappeared in the whole aftermath of all the problems U.S. airspace has had, and was absorbed by AA. I haven't flown AA in 12 years. I really want to fly them again, and I have to say this on.
Oh, actually, I have, but it was in a U.S. Airways plane. I flew from Philadelphia to Manchester, and it was good.
Are you not going? When are you going to Miami? Are you flying AA or flying?
I'm flying BA to Miami, and then I am flying American from Miami to Tampa.
Nice.
So just a short flight, but again, it'll be interesting. Now that I think about it, I've flown regionally on American quite often, and I like them.
Always liked Delta, although I haven't, because I went off SkyTeam, so I haven't flown them in a while. This is really United that I don't like, actually.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's forget about it. So Charlotte, I don't really know a lot about the airport. I did a layover there. I will say two main things, and I'm pretty sure that everyone who has ever transited in Charlotte will tell you the same thing: the rocking chairs.
Yes, so that's a staple in that whole region because Wilmington Airport has it as well.
But they started it by accident. They were the first ones. They did in 97. They had a photography exhibit that was called Porch Sitting. So they had the photography exhibit and they put these rocking chairs as part of the exhibition. Then when they dismantled the exhibition, where are the rocking chairs? Where are the rocking chairs?
That's so
the
great.
Airport scrambled back to bring back those and kept adding them everywhere. And that became a trend, as you say, in the whole region. There's other airports that have them as well. I love rocking chairs. There's something, being in an airport can be tense. Can be like it's fast-paced experience, and then you're on a rocking chair.
Yeah,
and especially
so
with the
good.
views on the apron, it's so fantastic.
Yeah, I love it. It's such a good idea.
So just for that, Charlotte stayed in my mind because it was for me was my first ever experience with a rocking chair. I was like, oh wow, this is really. And instead of going to the lounge, I actually stayed on a rocking chair in front of seeing the airplanes. It was really fantastic.
I would do the same thing.
I really loved it. The other thing the region is known for is barbecue, right? The North Carolina style barbecue.
Yep.
So they put like the entire pig is barbecued, not all the parts are then chopped and mixed together. It's delicious. They have some pretty cool barbecue shops within the airport, so you can eat that type of barbecue. So I would say that's the other thing you should do. Instead of taking bland food at some lounge, just pick up some food on a tray and go on a rocking chair, have barbecue while watching the planes. I think it's just 100%. For that.
100%.
Look, this is a great airport. Just for that. Honestly, the rest I cannot really tell if was it easy to navigate? Yeah, pretty much. It was not the easiest ever, but I liked it. And you know what? It's an important airport because it's these airports that unless you've flown them, you don't realize. But I think it's the 10th busiest airport in the US or something.
I believe that. I absolutely believe that.
It was at some point, I think, the 7th or 8th busiest airport in the world in terms of aircraft movement. So it's pretty important airport. It's not small at all. But again, the rocking chairs are so soothing. There's so many concourses, etc. I won't go into the details. I remember it fondly because of the rocking chairs, because of the barbecue, because of US Airways. I'm a bit sad that they've gone because I really enjoyed that airline. Like I did enjoy the.
I think Doug Parker has brought a lot of what they were to American.
Yeah. To me, the sad thing in all the consolidation that has happened in the US, it has seemingly lost the airlines where I prefer the delivery and design philosophy. US Airways, Northwest. I always liked Delta because as a kid, I still remember that, pyramid kind of thing.
Yeah.
The logos. As a kid, it was very, I remember seeing it. Continental, that globe for me was never a thing. No, United, their previous one, but not the current one, which is basically Continental, and they just like erased Continental and rewritten United with the same lettering. That's the bad thing. And US Airways, was the US flag. It was really nice. I have some pictures, some flights back then that I was looking before we started recording. Really, really nice. So the one last thing about the airport is they have an aviation museum next to the airport. So that's, there's a few airports that have these museums, but not a lot. I think it's to be noted when one has it. They have, including a DC-3 painted in a Piedmont Airlines livery.
Oh, nice.
The great-grandfather of what is now a then US Airways, etc., if you go back in history. They also have like photographs of the past of the airport and
fantastic.
The aircraft that have been
like
there.
That.
Yeah, exactly. Honestly, it's absolutely fantastic that they have that. They also have, I'm not sure if it's on display yet. I think this museum also bought was it an Airbus? The one that went into the Hudson River?
Yes.
I think this museum bought it, and they are maybe guys, because you've been recently, some of you, I know we have a lot of listeners in the US, maybe that aircraft is on display now, they're doing something with it, I don't know, but I had read that they had bought it, so let us know if that is on display, because I think it's a pretty cool thing to do this kind of thing in an airport.
Oh, that's so cool.
There you go, you need to go to Charlotte just for the barbecue, man.
Yeah, wow, and the museum and the rocking chairs. Absolutely.
So what are your next slides? I mean, we hinted at them. So you're doing London to Seoul with BA, then you stay in Seoul, then you go Peach
to Osaka.
Which airport at Osaka?
That's the only. Well, Itami is only domestic, so unfortunately we're going into Kix, which isn't the end of the world, Kansai, because I wanted to go there, but it's just much further out.
Yeah, it will be very interesting because we'll probably also recover, because we've done it in the past, KIX, because I've only known Terminal 1, which is ANA and JAL and Emirates. Terminal 2, which is the low-cost terminal, but I've heard it's not low-cost looking, no. If you want. So I would really be interested to have your view. And also, because I've done it only once, your view about, what we said, the airport is really far from Osaka itself, Osaka proper, so that journey, you'll be with your kids. So how it's I know, Japan is easy, but we'll talk about it.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how it goes.
Then you're not flying to Tokyo. We're taking
the Shinkansen. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And then we said you're back to that's and was it? Is it next week? When is the holidays for the kids? Is it next week?
Yeah.
We're so lucky we recorded.
Yeah, we go on Sunday.
Oh my God. As for me, I'm flying on Saturday, Emirates to Taipei. I'm staying 2 days in Taipei, then back to Dubai, which is why I took Emirates, because I needed to be in Dubai. And, I tried with other airlines, these kind of routes, and they either way too expensive or doesn't make any sense. So Emirates just works. Dubai for 3 days. And I'll be back just for Easter, basically when you'll be going away, I guess, or you'll just have been arrived in Osaka.
Yes, something like
that. So we'll have a lot to cover.
Yeah, exactly.
That will be a fascinating episode.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Absolutely. I have 50,000 miles that are about to expire in Emirates. So I'm looking into upgrading something, because otherwise I'm just going to lose them. And and the alternative would be, there's two alternatives. I could give them to charity, because Emirates does that, which I could do. Or you could buy something on the shop. But when I go on the shop, usually these miles, and you get like some, the left shoe, not the right one. Or I'll let you all guys know if I take another shower in Emirates, which I wish to make Alex jealous. On that, guys, Alex, see you next time, and safe travels.
Happy travels, guys.